Scroll through any social platform and you'll notice it immediately. Faces everywhere, smiles, poses, filters, carefully chosen angles, and then suddenly, nothing. A blank circle. No image, no identity offered. In a digital world obsessed with being seen, this absence feels almost disruptive. Your mind pauses. You wonder why. Are they hiding something? Are they different? Are they watching instead of participating? That single missing image creates more psychological tension than 1,000 selfies ever could, because humans are wired to read faces. We look for expressions to judge safety, status, and intent. When the face is removed, certainty collapses. What most people don't realize is that this silence isn't accidental. It's a choice, and choices online are rarely neutral. By refusing to show a face, a person steps outside the unspoken social contract of visibility. They reject instant categorization. They deny you shortcuts. And in doing so, they quietly reverse the power dynamic. Instead of being observed, they become the observer. Instead of being defined, they leave you guessing. This is where the psychology begins. How the brain reacts to missing faces. The human brain is uncomfortable with blanks. When information is missing, it doesn't wait patiently. It fills the gap. This is why a faceless profile triggers curiosity, suspicion, or even distrust within seconds. Without a face, the mind begins to project. It imagines personality, intent, and even morality based on nothing more than silence. Neuroscience shows that faces are processed faster than words. They help us decide who is safe, who is dominant, and who belongs. When that visual cue disappears, the brain loses its shortcut. And when shortcuts vanish, anxiety often appears. The uncertainty forces deeper cognitive effort, which many people unconsciously resist. So instead of admitting discomfort, the observer assigns meaning. They must be hiding. They're probably strange. They can't be trusted. But these reactions reveal more about the observer than the person behind the blank image. A missing face becomes a psychological mirror. It exposes how badly we rely on appearances to feel in control. Power through invisibility. Invisibility is often mistaken for weakness. In reality, it can be a form of quiet control. When someone withholds their image, they interrupt the usual flow of attention. There is no face to judge, no expression to decode, no visual hierarchy to place them in. This removes a major advantage from the observer. In social spaces, power often belongs to whoever is watched the least, but understands the most. A faceless presence can observe patterns, emotions, and behaviors without becoming a target of them. This is why some people feel unexpectedly strong when they are unseen. They are no longer reacting to how they look, only to what is being said. By staying invisible, they also avoid instant labeling. No assumptions about attractiveness, age, or status can stick. Communication becomes about words and actions rather than appearance. For certain personalities, this shift is liberating. They are not hiding. They are positioning themselves outside the game and watching it from above. Privacy is strategy, not fear. Many assume that refusing a profile picture comes from insecurity. In reality, it often comes from awareness. These individuals understand that the internet never forgets. Images travel, get copied, analyzed, and stored long after the moment they were posted. What feels casual to most people feels permanent to them. This isn't paranoia, it's strategic thinking. A face online becomes data. It can be judged, tracked, misused, or taken out of context. People who value long-term autonomy are often careful about what they release into systems they don't control. For them, privacy is not about hiding from others. It's about deciding what deserves access. They separate their inner identity from public consumption. This creates psychological safety and clarity. Instead of broadcasting themselves, they choose selective presence. They participate on their own terms, and that restraint often signals a higher level of self-awareness than constant visibility ever could. The observer personality. Some people are not wired to perform. They are wired to observe. These individuals naturally pay attention to tone, patterns, and subtle shifts in behavior. They listen more than they speak. They process before they respond. For them, social spaces are not stages, but systems to be understood. A profile picture feels unnecessary to this personality type. They don't seek recognition through appearance. Their sense of identity comes from internal consistency, not external feedback. Showing a face adds noise to what they value most: clarity. Observer personalities often engage deeply while revealing very little. They may comment thoughtfully, notice contradictions others miss, or remain silent while absorbing everything. This can make them seem distant or mysterious, but it is simply their natural mode of interaction. Remaining faceless allows them to stay grounded in observation rather than self-monitoring. They are present without being exposed. And in a world addicted to performance, that restraint quietly sets them apart. Boundaries formed by experience. For some, the decision to stay faceless is shaped by experience. Being misunderstood, judged, or reduced to appearances leaves a psychological mark. Over time, constant exposure can feel draining rather than connecting. In response, boundaries form. A missing profile picture becomes one of those boundaries. It's a way to control access without cutting off interaction completely. They can participate, observe, and communicate without inviting unnecessary scrutiny. This choice is not about isolation. It's about preservation. Emotional fatigue often teaches people to protect what matters most. When visibility leads to misinterpretation, invisibility becomes a form of self-respect. It allows space to think, to engage selectively, and to remain emotionally regulated. This kind of boundary is quiet but firm. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for permission. It simply exists. And for those who have learned the cost of overexposure, that silence can feel safer than any explanation. Rejection of performative identity. Modern digital culture rewards visibility, not depth. Likes, follows, and reactions slowly train people to present themselves as products. Over time, identity becomes something performed rather than lived. For some, refusing a profile picture is a quiet rebellion against this system. These individuals sense that constant self-display fragments authenticity. When identity is shaped by how it is received, it becomes unstable. By staying faceless, they remove themselves from the cycle of comparison and validation. They refuse to measure their worth through attention. This choice often reflects a deeper resistance to being reduced to an image. A face becomes a symbol others consume, judge, or idealize. Without it, interaction shifts toward ideas, language, and intention. They are not trying to be mysterious. They are trying to be real. In absence, they preserve something personal that the digital world is always trying to extract, and that refusal is, in itself, a statement of independence. Why faceless profiles trigger others. A missing profile picture doesn't just create curiosity. It often triggers discomfort. Some people feel uneasy interacting with someone they cannot visually place. Without a face, there is no instant category to rely on, no shortcut for trust or dismissal, and that uncertainty unsettles many more than they realize. In response, the mind looks for explanations. Suspicion appears. Assumptions form. The faceless person is labeled distant, deceptive, or unapproachable. But these reactions are rarely about the person without the image. They are about the observer's dependence on visual certainty. Ambiguity removes control. It forces people to engage without relying on appearance, status cues, or emotional signals. For those accustomed to quick judgments, this feels threatening. The discomfort comes from not knowing how to position themselves. In this way, a blank profile becomes a psychological test. It reveals who needs clarity to feel safe and who can tolerate the unknown without projecting fear onto silence. The hidden strength behind no image. At its core, choosing not to display a profile picture reflects a strong internal anchor. These individuals know who they are without needing visual confirmation from others. Their identity is not built in reaction to attention, but rooted in self-definition. Invisibility, in this sense, is not absence, it is restraint. It signals comfort with being unseen, unheard, and unvalidated in moments where others would feel anxious. That comfort suggests emotional independence. While the digital world pressures people to constantly declare themselves, a faceless presence quietly opts out. They allow their words, actions, or silence to speak instead. This often leads to deeper, more intentional interactions. The paradox is simple. The less they show, the more stable they tend to be. In refusing the performance, they preserve clarity. And in a culture obsessed with faces, the decision to remain unseen can be one of the most grounded expressions of psychological strength.